Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan, and let's break down the ending of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes and all the Easter eggs and references that you might have missed. And I got a theory about that ending that's going to pay off a 13-year-old Easter egg and lead us all to this.
Damn you all to hell!
And before we get rolling, I want to show you guys this awesome, oh wait, I was wrong, it was Earth All Along shirt, as well as this What a Wonderful Day shirt for sale now at our merch store where we design all the merch ourselves for you guys. The links to those are below. Now, this movie is very referential to the other Apes films, both the Andy Serkis-centric trilogy, but also the original 5 films that started all the way back in 1968. And we're especially going to talk about the ending, which sets up a new conflict between apes and the human race. The movie opens with text on the screen that briefly describes the events of the 3 previous films, Rise, Dawn, and War for Planet of the Apes, which, by the way, we also covered in our Planet of the Apes recap. We're reminded that the humans lost the ability to speak because of an airborne virus, which also helped apes become more intelligent. Now, the idea that humans can't speak happens in the original 1963 book La Planète des Singes, or Monkey Planet, written by French novelist Pierre Boulle. He also wrote the book The Bridge on the River Kwai, starring William Holden and the great Alec Guinness, you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
So was this Boulle guy really big into sci-fi since he was writing stories for Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Well, yes and no. Boulle was interested in political and historical satire, so not all of his books were sci-fi, although his short story collection Time Out of Mind is very sci-fi. But humans do lose the ability to speak in the book, but not because of some mutating virus. Instead, it's because of environmental evolution. So the movie opens with the funeral for the first ape who could speak in the modern series, Caesar, played by Andy Serkis. The various apes lay flowers on Caesar, and it kind of feels a bit like the funeral for Padme Amidala and Revenge of the Sith. And by the way, if you've only seen the newer movies, then you may not know that Caesar is named Caesar, not just because of Roman history, but because that's the name of Roddy McDowall's ape character from Conquest of the Planet of the Apes and Battle for the Planet of the Apes. This is relevant to Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes for one reason. In the original films, Caesar's parents, who were time-traveling apes, wanted peace with humans. But in Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, Caesar becomes the conquering ape who establishes the Planet of the Apes in the first place. He then tries to make peace again in Battle of the Planet of the Apes.
Man, how many of these Apes movies are there?
Dude, there are so many Planet of the Apes movies, comics, TV shows, and tomorrow we're dropping our longest video ever on the definitive history of Planet of the Apes, which covers everything except for the new movie. I really love seeing this new series of ape films because, unlike the originals, they do a better job of keeping the focus on characters first. Every ape and every human is dealing with some sort of deep-seated trauma that they're working to overcome. This kind of trauma, any trauma, makes these characters so relatable. And I'm sure a lot of you have been through hard times. I know I have. I had a 2-year span in my life where it seemed like every single thing that could go wrong went wrong. I had deaths in the family, I had a friend commit suicide, a breakup. It all just hit a point where I got real low and I had some very dark thoughts, and I was tired of burdening my friends and family. And that's why I'm telling you that if you're dealing with events like those, then therapy can help. Working with a therapist has helped me to understand the core of my anxiety and to become a more well-rounded person, because therapists can help you to actually understand why you are reacting with anxiety or anger. And that's why we're proud to be sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp makes it easy to connect you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. To start, use our link in the description and answer a few questions so BetterHelp can match you with a professional. You can have your sessions from your phone, computer, phone call, video chat, or messaging, however you feel most comfortable. And if your therapist isn't a good fit, then you can switch at any time. You'll be matched to a therapist usually within 48 hours so you can get started fast. So, let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you all from the comfort of your own home. Visit betterhelp.com/ScreenCrush or use the code ScreenCrush during sign up to receive a special discount on your first month. Now, back to what I was saying. So, in Kingdom, we see a lot of ape disagreement about the teachings of Caesar, which, in a sense, is a tribute not just to the Andy Serkis movies, but also the ways in which Caesar wanted both peace and war in the old movies. Now, I think this is a very interesting direction for this franchise to go. In human society, real-world events slowly become myth and religion over thousands of years, leaving the next generations to canonize and interpret what these rulers and heroes would have done today. For example, the Founding Fathers wrote the Constitution over 200 years ago, and we're still debating their intent regarding some of the amendments. It's interesting to see Caesar, who we watched grow up from a baby, be turned into this kind of canonized religious figure. Speaking of the classic film, when May and Noah are captured and led to the kingdom of Proximus Caesar, the beach they're walking on looks very much like the beach that Taylor found himself on at the end of the original film. And this small Easter egg might be foreshadowing the ending of the movie. Eventually, the biggest twist of the movie all comes down to a hidden human vault, which Proximus Caesar wants open to get a hold of human technology. And May wants the vault open because she says she needs something like a book that can can help humans learn to speak again. The vault itself is reminiscent of the underground cult of humans in Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
Now, do you say what now?
Well, in the second Apes movie, we discover an underground race of mutants with mental powers who worship a nuclear missile like it's a god.
Glory be to the bomb and to the holy fallout as it was in the beginning.
Eventually, the missile detonates.
A green and insignificant planet is now dead.
And that meant that the next film had to be a time travel story where 3 apes went back in time. So then in that movie, they become celebrities and give birth to a super intelligent ape. And then, in the fourth movie, we learned that this super intelligent ape, Caesar, leads the revolution that causes the planet to be ruled by apes in the first film. So, kind of accidentally, the entire series ended up being about retrocausality and the inevitable destruction of the Earth through nuclear war. Now, nothing like mutants and nuclear warheads actually happens in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, but there does seem to be some intentional mirroring of the imagery from Beneath. This leads us to the head-scratching, seemingly out of nowhere ending of the movie, and if you haven't seen it, this is your last chance to turn back before massive spoilers. Okay, so Noah and his clan defeat Proximus Caesar with help of those badass eagles.
The eagles are coming!
Now, before we get to that scene in the vault, which believe me, we're going to explain, I want to talk about the final scene between May and Noah, because it really encapsulates what this new story is about. May destroyed the silo rather than let the apes get a hold of the weapons, and as a consequence, many apes died. Now later, she defends her decision, telling Noah that this was a human place, not for apes. And he responds by asking, then what is for apes? Would you see us as animals or pets? And then he lays down this heartbreaker. Proximus was right. Humans will never give up until you claim all things for yourself. And then he asks her, could apes and humans ever live together, as we cut to the gun that she is concealing under her tunic. So this is showing us that all through the movie, she was always 100% focused on her mission. She wanted to rebuild human dominance on Earth and wasn't really interested in coexistence with apes. But then he gives her the necklace, Caesar's symbol of human and ape coexistence. The thing is though, she accepts the necklace. Her experiences have opened her up to a different way of thinking. In future movies, we could see these shifting ideologies then grow into larger divides, just as Caesar's original story has now grown into a myth generations after he passed. And then May obtains a data encryption card from the human vault. We then see her riding off to what can only be described as a pristine, secret human base, complete with old, large, ancient radar dish antennas, the kind used for long-distance communication. She's greeted by a woman in a hazmat suit, and this is interesting. It means that this society of humans are untouched by the airborne virus that robbed humanity of speech. They have stayed underground for generations, just like the mutants in Beneath Planet of the Apes. But their main goal, just like the humans in the original films, is to communicate with other humans. Now, in terms of the timeline, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is set several generations after War for the Planet of the Apes, which is nice and vague and might give us some clues as to what the hell's actually happening in the ending.
A clue!
The movie mostly revolves around a young ape named Noah, who is part of a bird clan of apes who all train eagles from birth.
Now, why do they train eagles?
Because nothing in the movie makes sense or is cool if they don't.
Yeah, but what do they actually use the eagles for?
To look cool.
Fair enough.
Very quickly, we're introduced to the idea that Noah's ape clan hasn't seen humans in a long while and refers to people as echoes. Noah and his friends encounter a young woman, played by Freya Allen, who initially, a wise old ape named Raka calls Nova. Now, Raka says that apes always call humans Nova, and he doesn't know why. Now, this is a reference to the human child Nova, played by Amaya Miller in War for the Planet of the Apes. Again, we're seeing how real incidents and real people can slowly evolve into customs and traditions over time. In fact, we're kind of already seeing this kind of thing in this movie. John Lithgow named a baby ape in Rise.
Caesar, kneel down.
In this movie, we see two warring ideologies at play. There's Caesar Proximus, which means nearest to Caesar. Proximus has embraced the legends of Caesar, that he was a warrior first, a liberator who led his people to victory. But we know this wasn't always the case. Caesar was raised by humans, and he loved his human family. Even in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, he tries to stay on peaceful terms, allowing humans to access the dam. But Proximus embraces Caesar the legend, the conquering warrior, whereas Raka is an orangutan. Now, in the original films, orangutans were the scientists. And in this new trilogy, Caesar's closest confidant was Maurice, an intelligent and gentle ape who always cautioned against violence and war. Now, Raka is an orangutan who is a member of the Order of Caesar, and their symbol is the circle with 4 lines. Remember, that is the shape of Caesar's bedroom window in James Franco's attic. There was a very touching scene in that movie where he was in a holding cell with other apes, and he drew this symbol on the wall of his cell. So this simple symbol is a sign of Caesar's peaceful nature and his affection for the humans that raised him. It's a sign that humans and apes can live together. So when Raka gives this necklace to Noah, he's really passing on an ideology, a belief that ape society must be better than human society, or else ape society will suffer the same fate. Remember that necklace, by the way, because it's going to be very important later in the movie. Now, of course, Nova was also the name of Linda Harrison's human character from the original film. In the 2001 Tim Burton version, Nova was an ape, not a human, and she was played by Lisa Marie Smith. Later, Raka and Noah are stunned to learn that the new Nova can speak, and that her name isn't Nova, it's May. Played by Peter Marcone, Raka is a hilarious scene stealer, and the running gag of him thinking humans are really, really dumb echoes a classic scene from the original film, in which Zira thinks Taylor is adorable because she thinks he's trying to speak.
That Bright Eyes is remarkable. He keeps trying to form words.
Speaking of the classic movie, when Raka, Noah, and May are crossing the bridge, we get notes from Jerry Goldsmith's classic score from the 1968 Planet of the Apes. These movies lean heavily into the power of speech. Caesar begins the franchise learning to communicate by learning sign language. And the turning point in the first movie is when he first speaks. No! So this moment was a demarcation, when Caesar and the other apes went from animals to sentient beings. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes ends with humans receiving radio transmissions from other people, so they know that there are more out there, more survivors like them. And humans losing the power of speech in War for the Planet of the Apes essentially makes them de-evolve and be considered a lesser caste than the apes. So it's fitting that these people want to use this SETI array for one simple reason: communication. Mace people pop in the hard drive, which seems to decrypt the technology, and they are able to contact Fort Wayne, Indiana. And this moment of celebration is undercut with Noah showing another ape the telescope from earlier. Now, the earlier telescope scene shows Noah looking through a high-power telescope at an observatory and being amazed by what he saw. I think this is because he was seeing the heavens, the world beyond Earth. It's a way of showing him, and all apes, that the universe is very big and our place in it is very small. Now, in a way, this should be a kind of unifying moment for the world. It's a way for both Noah and May to acknowledge that apes and humans are on this small, round, wet Earth together, and that they can share its resources. But I think the placement of the telescope at the end here does the opposite. I think this is Noah realizing that apes need to step up and learn to use more advanced technology. If there is a new war coming between a united human race and the apes are going to have to become more technologically advanced. But I also think the look in the telescope here is paying off some badass time travel shenanigans that were set up in the first movie 13 years ago. Notice how in the observatory we see this mural of an astronaut. Now, the original series and the Tim Burton remake were like steeped in space travel. The first movie began with Colonel Taylor crash landing on the Planet of the Apes in his spaceship. And then in the third movie, Escape from Planet of the Apes, 3 ape astronauts take a spaceship and end up traveling back in time. And finally, of course, the Marky Mark 2001 version was all about traveling to a Planet of the Apes which was not Earth and crash landing there. Now, in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, there is a very short Easter egg that could have set up the conflict of this new trilogy. First, we see astronauts preparing for an expedition to Mars. And later in the film, there is a newspaper headline speculating that the astronauts have been lost in space. Now, all of us fans of the original films pointed to the screen and said, "Those are the astronauts from the first movie."
Now, do you say what now?
Well, like I said, the original film begins with Colonel Taylor's crew crashing on Earth in the distant future. So, the ship we saw in Rise of the Planet of the Apes could be astronauts that will return to Earth thousands of years in the future. Now, in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, this just seems like a neat Easter egg that maybe they could pay off later. You know, at the time, the movie was more concerned with James Franco trying to discover a cure for Alzheimer's, and the franchise was a long way away from establishing a dystopian Planet of the Apes. But now, here we are. This is the exact era when the astronauts could return.
Yeah, I don't know, person. Time travel? Seems like a big leap of logic. What's next? Aliens?
I don't know, man. I mean, this is a sci-fi series. Remember, in the original movies, apes traveled back in time to give birth to a super intelligent ape that caused the Planet of the Apes. The entire original series ended up being about time travel and retrocausality just so they could write their way out of a corner when Earth was destroyed and beneath the Planet of the Apes. But here's where I think all of this is going. I think that this ending is setting up a world where the humans are going to be resurgent and they fight back against the apes, in a reverse of the first film. And I think the final film in this trilogy will end with the astronauts returning to Earth. And the astronauts are going to remember what Earth was once like. Not just modern conveniences and McDonald's, but a world where people tolerated one another and learned to live together. I think the astronauts might be a kind of Deus Ex Machina that ends the war and fulfills the promise at the end of Battle for the Planet of the Apes, that apes and humans could live side by side.
But as I look at apes and humans living in friendship, harmony, and at peace,
And finally, after all the credits roll, when the screen is totally black, we hear the telltale sign of an orangutan, which of course could mean that Rocka didn't actually die, and maybe survived drowning in the river earlier. But this audio Easter egg doesn't necessarily confirm that Rocka is literally alive, but instead that his ideas are going to persist throughout this trilogy of films. But what do you guys think about the movie? Do you have any questions? Big shout out to the writer of this video, Mr. Ryan Britt. You can find his socials and mine in the links below, and let us know what you think in the comments. And guys, if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.